Hi, everybody. Okay, just setting up a couple of things here. Let's see, I've sent a link or a request to someone who I've invited to join me live tonight. So I'm kind of waiting to see if they
Oh, is it on?
Let's see. I see you.
Do you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're sideways on my screen. I don't know what you are on other people's screens.
Let me check. Let me put this.
It says bring them on the video, but ask Rachel to join the live.
I can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You can? Where? I can't get, I'm trying to turn my tripod. I can just hold it if I have to. My tripod has my camera set to like horizontal. How does that look now?
Yeah.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, now you're right.
It looks super dark.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Darker than normal. I can hear you.
Okay. I can hear you pretty good. I have my volume all the way up. You're a little faint, but
Yes? Are you able to see my face?
yeah, I can see you.
Okay.
But I on my end, you're just a little faint. I don't know how it is for everybody else.
I'm just gonna hold it close to my face.
Okay.
Does that work?
Anybody out there who might be on with us? I don't know if there's anybody yet, but can you guys hear Rachel? Can you hear me?
Should I put my earphones in? Let me try my earphones.
I see one person is watching. Nature's
Heathen.
Heathen. Can you hear both of us okay?
Where are my earphones?
Volume is good. You're a little bit dark. Yeah. Rachel kind of likes the moody lighting.
No, it's just like very distracting for me to have like when we had our call earlier today, the natural lighting is fine, but the heavier lighting at night is so aggressive for my like aura.
Yeah.
Are you able?
You know what? I feel the same way. My kids, when they're home visiting, they give my husband such a hard time because we're like always sitting like in the dark or like with very low lights on at night. I have them on, so I have more lighting for the viewers tonight. But yeah, I get that. I get that.
I like what you said, Nature's Heathen.
Yeah.
Bit dark. Volume is good. Okay. Must be working shadow work. I like that.
Yeah. Well, you're a little, I can't hear you as well, and I don't know what that difference in that connection would be for me. So I'm going to have to really kind of try and listen.
Okay, I'm going to put my earphones in right now.
Will that help me hear you better?
How about now?
Maybe a little. Say something.
Is it good?
Yeah, that's a little better, maybe.
Why is it? This is weird. Hold on.
I don't know. It might be just something on my end, but
what is going on?
now I have my volume all the way up though. So
I don't know why it's not letting me put you on my earphones. Like I have the earphones plugged in. I don't know if it's because it's like a live stream thing. Like if it won't like let it happen because it's a live stream. But
yeah.
I have my earphones plugged in, and it won't connect to the video.
Okay. Well, I'll have to listen a little carefully. Okay, so if we have anyone on with us live tonight, that's wonderful. If not, we know that people can tune in and watch this a little bit later. Even if it's just for Rachel and I think the conversations are important. And even just, the energies and what we're creating and putting out there in the world, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily always about like the number of people, that we have
Oh,
gathered
no.
in a certain time and space.
Yeah, because other people will see this at different times down the road too,
Yeah,
and it'll be accessible.
that's right. Yeah. So, I've been doing these lives for a couple weeks now. I'm going to be doing a lot more. I'm thrilled that Rachel wanted to hop on one with me, and I'm hoping that maybe she'll hop on with me more in the future, sporadically or however it works out for us. But tonight we want to start the conversation around personal sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
And it all ties into, what I've been talking about. The name of my content is The Soul of the Great Awakening. Because we've been hearing, the Great Awakening, for like years now. I started calling my content The Soul of the Great Awakening a few years ago because to me, ultimately, that is the most important and the greatest awakening that's happening. That's the greatest shift and the greatest awakening. It's learning to turn off the outer voices and turn on
Mm-hmm.
the inner voice of your soul, your intuitive guidance, your inner GPS system, and learning to live through, you know, through that inner kind of navigational compass, right? For how we show up in the world, living our truth. And so personal sovereignty, just, to give us like a definition to work with. Like sovereignty is supreme authority and complete independence. So we hear that, right, as a sovereign nation, or, we hear it applied in different ways. But, tonight we're going to apply it as personal sovereignty,
Mm-hmm.
which in essence is like our spiritual sovereignty. And
Mm-hmm.
last week I talked a lot about divinity and our human connection, like to divinity. And I shared some words that I had heard recently by Greg Braden, and I'll just reiterate those words again tonight because I thought they were so moving. And he talks a lot about the human design and about divinity, being really at the core of our essence. It's just that we've been intentionally distracted and separated from that.
Mm-hmm.
And he said these words in a recent interview that I listened to of Greg Braden. And he posed the question. He said, "What is it that is so precious and so valuable within each and every one of us?" I get almost emotional when I sharing his words.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that is so precious and so valuable within each and every one of us that we have been intentionally diverted from it for thousands of years,
Oh,
that
I love this
literally
question.
they, whoever they are, we can talk about that later,
Right.
they have will go at any lengths to keep us from that. They'll put nations at war against nations. They'll engineer the climate. They'll introduce and unleash pandemics. Like they will go at no length is great enough for them to want to intentionally keep us distracted from that.
Mm.
And when he put it in that context, and I have said this before in some of my own content, that they, again, they isn't who we think it is. They are like layers of they, right? But they know how powerful we are when we are in alignment and connection with our divinity. We
Mm.
don't know how powerful we are. We're the ones that have forgotten how powerful we are. Have we ever even lived? Has humanity ever even existed when we've been really in alignment fully
Mm.
with the power of our divinity? And to think, like how powerful is it? How precious is it that they have gone to great lengths to keep the human species from making that connection?
Mm. We didn't talk about this earlier today, but I'm so glad that you're bringing it up right now, because it is like a really poignant point of what I feel like everybody is feeling inside. Because I mean, the chaos will happen regardless of what politic party is going to be in
Yeah,
office. Like it's just all the play that just keeps playing out, whichever one's there, right?
that's right.
But I feel like there's like a crescendo happening on like a collective level right now, whether it be in America or the other countries around the world, that it's obvious that there is some tension that's building, right?
Right.
And so I feel like it naturally forces we the people to get in touch with our inner world, or succumb to, like, the other alternative is to be like whipped around, like our nervous systems and our mindsets whipped around by like the narratives that are being pushed regardless of the political,
Well,
right?
that's right. And, since I've been kind of stepping into this work and sharing this content, I try to remind people that there's always, always, always kind of a divine thread at play.
Mm-hmm.
And even with the current like situation, that we're all living and like, across the globe and specifically here in the United States, there's a reason why, like collectively as a humanitarian group, that we have sort of evolved or chosen to have this experience at this time. And I
Mm-hmm.
really want people to try as they can to not get so attached to what's playing out in the world, and understand that these people are showing up at this time to kind of play certain roles, and it's not about political. I mean, if we are stepping into the duality of I'm right, you're wrong, us versus them, red versus blue, that's exactly where they want us. I always say that division is their number one weapon.
Mm-hmm.
To keep us divided. And it really doesn't matter. And it's not about our current administration being like Republican. It's players in that administration who are showing up at this point in humanity. Literally, I mean, I just see them as like the great destroyers, the great dismantlers,
Mm-hmm.
because we're meant to shift away from these old structures and systems that no longer serve us as our divine design. I mean, when you start waking up to our divinity within and our sovereignty, it's easy to look around the world and be like, the world I live in doesn't support who I am as a divine and sovereign being, right? So those old ways of being, those old systems, all of them, the healthcare system, the government system, the education system, like all of it, it needs to dismantle and crumble so that we can step over here and create something new. So I just encourage everyone to try and keep that higher perspective and just kind of let it all play out. But I feel like individually and as a humanitarian group, this is kind of a choice point of, are you going to put more fuel on the fire and feed the chaos and get pulled into the fear and get swallowed up in it? Or are you gonna, hey, I'm divine, I'm sovereign, and come over here and try to create that new paradigm, that new matrix, and that new earth?
Well, I feel like that's a, if you don't, are you okay if I insert
Absolutely.
something else?
That's why you're here, girl.
Yeah, the what you're saying about like the duality spectrum going on externally right now, and then snapping it into like a different frequency at play for us to materialize outside of ourselves. To me, that's kind of why I'm here on this call right now with you, because you had been attracted to some of the content I've been sharing recently about my personal journey into like a sovereignty that is feeling more elevated for me, than prior walks of existence leading up until now, right? So I feel like the macrocosm, microcosm, like the internal aspect of what I am hearing from many, many people right now, that there is an uplifting going on within them that is like reflective of something I'm personally experiencing myself. It seems to be that there are a lot of my private friends group that are individually, outside of like not even watching me on my own posts or like even talking to me on a regular basis, they're sharing that they're also going through a similar awakening within themselves right now.
Yeah,
So
because that's the ticket.
mhm,
We create the outer shift by doing our individual inner work.
mhm,
This is also something that I say almost every time that I show up somewhere. The new, whatever it is, how you want to define it, new earth, new paradigm, new matrix, whatever. But the new isn't something that's going to happen for you or to you. It's only going to happen through you, through
mhm,
each of us individually. This is individual inner work,
mhm.
and coming into that alignment of, the real awakening, the soul of the awakening is remembering who you are as soul, as a divine being. That's the real awakening, and it's making that there's no collective shift unless we're making the inner shifts, right? It
Yeah.
all starts on a very personal level. So when we're talking about sovereignty, supreme authority, complete independence, and we're applying that to our own individual spiritual sovereignty, what we're really talking about then is living to the guidance of our own inner authority.
Mm,
Period.
absolutely. Yes.
Period. And not trying to justify it, not getting attached to it, not, over analyzing it, but just moment by moment, day by day, showing up and really tuning in what feels right for me and living by that inner authority. And I just want to kind of clarify, when we're talking about our personal sovereignty and our inner authority, we're talking about it in relationship to that divine connection, okay? We're not talking about it in the sense of our ego, because if we
Mhm.
try
Right.
to apply sovereignty to our ego, then that's going to translate to, honestly, maybe just being kind of a jerk and being like, well, I'm sovereign and no one's going to tell me what to do, and I'm going to do whatever I want because I'm sovereign. That's not, sovereignty is only an adjective for your divinity.
Mhm,
It's not an adjective for the ego. So when we're showing up authentically by answering and taking action to our inner authority for what feels right, then by default, we can trust and know that it's in the highest good of all, right?
mhm,
Because divinity is always aligned with like the golden rule of do no
mm,
harm. You can always trust in your inner guidance that it's not just in your highest interest, but it's also in the highest interest of all.
mhm.
Because those choices and actions that we're making to follow like our inner guidance should never, have any, no one should ever struggle or suffer by like what we're creating or how we're existing in the world, right? That would
Especially not yourself.
negate sovereignty and that would negate divinity. So when we're talking about reclaiming our personal sovereignty, that's in relationship to divinity, which is by default then in the highest good of all, and falls under the umbrella of the golden rule.
Mhm,
So I saw you just this week, because we can talk about these concepts, but if we don't help people apply them to like everyday life, in real time, then they're just concepts
mm,
and they're not actually anything that we're putting out in the world. So awakening is a verb. It's not a spectator sport. And
right.
it's not just a noun that I'm waiting for the awakening. We are the awakening. It's a verb. It requires active participation. And that number one active participation that it is requiring is for you stepping in to your divine power, listening to your truth, and showing up in the world with it.
I feel like it might be helpful to mention what the hallmarks of that alignment feel like, though. And to me, it's just continuously realigning my mindset, my thoughts, checking in with, like, because everything's always in the atmosphere to program you, whether it be your news feed that you're watching on your Facebook app or anything that you're exposing yourself to digitally, right? Or on like the actual news on television and stuff. Like there's tons of programming around, even off digital platforms, your family, your career, whatever. Yeah. And one of the hallmarks that I've found that is the signature of alignment for me with my divinity is when I feel at peace and inspired. And I'm in the process of finding my inspiration again. I'm really getting clear about peace for myself recently, and that's what I've been sharing with my followers lately is that sense of peace that I'm getting really strong about with myself because of what I know I don't want, right? From what I've been through. But now it's for me, my whole process right now is I'm getting reawakened, the greater that I'm finding peace within myself, like I'm finding a greater compassionate depth to be showing up in a way that is facilitating the world around me from another way of, like, another wave of compassionate assistance that used to drain me when I was actuating my purpose out of alignment. And my purpose is to be a healing force here of an empowerment for the rest of the collective, right? That's what I have my own personal Rachel walk, which is my own healing journey I'm working through on a personal level. But then that's also coupled with as you and probably anyone that would log on to this call would have an aligned purpose for their own destiny and their own journey, will also have a matching reflection of their personal journey that is supposed to be reflective in the external collective world as well, to also shine light, right? So to me, I'm in the process of reconnecting with my own sense of peace and sovereignty, and then how that's to be applied in a healthy manner for the external world is what I'm really trying to keep a pulse on at the moment. And it's in the process. I think really where to start with being part of that transition team right now is to just embody it in your own life as best as you can.
Oh, right. It starts in your personal life. And if we want to break it down even to like simple examples, like, listening from within, living from within, and not just listening, but then taking action on it, because we're all constantly hearing our intuition, right? But it does nothing if we're not actually applying it and trusting to move on it. But in even like really basic terms, right? It could be all of a sudden like having an inner awareness of like, you know what? Like, I'm not ordering out pizza. I'm I'm not eating that anymore, like even with just like your food choices, right? Or maybe because our truth evolves as our consciousness evolves.
Well said.
I mean,
I think
there
that's a really
are
important piece
some
to remember.
universal truths, right? Like the golden rule of do no harm. That's like just a universal truth. That's not, but some of our personal truths evolve as we evolve, so it could be like, hey, I'm gonna snack. I need a snack. Oh, I'm gonna grab. It's been maybe a long time, if ever, that I had this truth. But just for an example, I'm gonna grab a bag of Doritos. Well, then you evolve. Your consciousness evolves, and you become more aware. And you're like, I'm not eating a bag of Doritos. Like, I'm gonna have an apple.
Mm-hmm.
But that could evolve to, I'm gonna have an organic apple, and that could evolve to, I'm going to grow my own apples. You know what I mean? So it's even the little things like, I don't necessarily want people who are kind of just stepping into even like, wait, I have a soul. I should be listening from within. How do I do that? Like just for people who have been so distracted that this is like even kind of new territory for them. It's just like the little things, like the little nudges and listening, from within, and, and acting on them, and like I said, as our awareness around things in the world expands, as our consciousness expands, like, those truth aspects of us, might change and expand too. But, I saw you do something this week, like kind of with your dharmic path and your career path, where you made an announcement, on Facebook that, hey, everyone, I'm no longer doing this, and I'm going to be like doing this. And, the name of this, little talk tonight was, personal sovereignty as a gateway into unity consciousness. Well, there's not going to be any unity consciousness. There can't be unity consciousness until we all step into the power of our personal sovereignty. Because, stepping into sovereignty and aligning with that realization, like that source is within, God is within, I'm the created and the creator, I am the I am one with the one. And this is something that I say to myself often over the past few years. I say, I am the I am, I'm one with the one, I'm creator of the master creator, I'm knowing of the all knowing, and claiming, that divinity and that sovereignty. But the deeper I come into that, my own knowing and my own sovereignty, then I can recognize that you and my neighbor and everyone else on the planet is also of source.
It's a really important piece, yeah.
On this planet as a unique expression of source. And once we start making that connection, then we realize that there is no separation. I am you, you are me, we are one. That's what will create, unity consciousness. Because I think sometimes in the narrative of even like the new earth or the new paradigm, that sometimes we might have a misinterpretation, at least it's a misinterpretation for me. I think we can all feel it differently, and that's fine. But it's a misinterpretation for me to think that it's going to be this global population of people who are all thinking, believing, living, and acting in the exact same way. Because if that's what it was meant to be, then we don't even need personal sovereignty. We don't even need to claim our own truth, because everyone's the same. So the new to me isn't about, we're gonna, migrate or evolve into this global population of people who are all just thinking and believing and living in the exact same manner. It's unity consciousness is the unconditional acceptance of everyone
uniqueness,
living their unique expression of their truth, allowing them to have their own soul experiences, to learn their own lessons, to evolve in their own time and in their own way. And because who am I to judge that another path that another person is taking isn't what their soul needs to, it's really
that's so important.
place of not an unconditional non-judgment. That's what it feels like to me.
Right, because when you're able, and what I was hearing also, I wanted to touch back on this, because some people might have a difficult time identifying what sovereignty even means for their own life, right? Because they've maybe never even had a reference point for that before, right?
Right.
And I feel like what I was hearing you say behind your words when you were talking about like snacks, like the choice of snacks, for example, getting healthier and healthier. I feel like the nuance that I was picking up on what you were saying with all that was like anything that, like junk food, for example, can sometimes feel like a compulsion, right? And you like laid out a series of steps that was like a conscious step process towards the healthy. And so I feel like I want to go back to like people that like to snack on Doritos, for example, versus like organic apples, I feel like that's a lifestyle that is reflective of when you're using it as like stepping towards like an organic apple for more sovereignty, right? It's addressing the pieces in your own life that I feel like I was hearing behind your words compulsion, that is like, that's not freedom, that's not sovereignty, right? Like, make it, because the choice factor to get to the healthy from point A, which is Doritos, to point B, which would be like health. And we're using Doritos and apples, but it's like anything. It's just an easy way to like talk about healthy movement forward into a more liberated state.
And evolution of your awareness.
Right. Right. And for me, I've never, and I am going to actually stick with the dietary piece here, even though this can be like reflected on so many different levels of like your personal lifestyle. And I think the personal lifestyle, regardless of whether it be your diet, your hobbies, your career choices, like your friendships, whatever relationships, like I feel like it has to be there that I actually speak with conviction from right now, because that's all I'm actually doing right now is just honing in my own personal life, because I'm not doing much more beyond that career level wise yet, because I'm still like refining that. I'm still like processing and digesting through that. But it is like such an important piece to get clearer and clearer and clearer in your own life, through this process of elimination of for me, the compulsions are a huge thing to talk about, because I think that that's a very human thing that so many different people struggle with on a very base human level, which is part of my reclaiming my sovereign path recently, which
Well,
was,
we have been such a programmed and kind of manipulated and honestly kind of a mindless society that, you know, going within and listening to your inner truth and, you know, making that alignment, it requires a lot of self-analysis, a lot of honesty, and a lot of questioning. I heard someone say once a couple of years ago, um, how our beliefs are choices. Like we actually choose what we believe. Like no one's forcing us, right? We have a lot of program, we have a lot of propaganda, so we're heavily influenced, right? But if we actually take a step back and start like questioning, why do I believe what I believe? Why do I believe this? Where did that, why? I mean, we actually get to choose what we do believe. And something that I like to ask people is, if there was absolutely nothing outside of yourself that was influencing you, absolutely nothing, what would you choose to believe about other people, about the world you live in, and about yourself? Like if there was literally no other outside voice of any kind, like running like a little machine, what would you choose to believe? And just, we haven't operated like that, you know? So it's, the concept of the shift is simple, you know, shut off the outer voices, listen from within, live your truth. But we've actually never done it. We've not been a society of people who have ever lived that way. So it's a simple concept, but it's not easy to do. And it's a whole lot of undoing, a whole lot of unraveling. And you know, I've heard you say more than once tonight about, you know, like applying to your personal life, applying, you know, to your personal life. Well, yeah, I mean, that's where it starts, you know, like
self-love piece. For me, the ticket is self-love, and
self
that's the
love
shift.
is the most important. It is the love, because there's not true unconditional love for others without having true unconditional love for yourself first.
Right. Right. That is, to me, that was the turning point. And I've had some people ask me to write, and I'm planning on writing a lot actually coming up about this. But the shift for me, the actual shift, the aha eureka, was when I I was in such a pattern of escalating dysfunctional choices that were literally choosing chaos in my world. It wasn't necessarily playing out with diet, even though that's even gotten better. But just like chasing chaos in my life, I'll just put it that way. And having to sit within some really deep moments for myself for about a period of a week to 10 days of digesting what happened like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, when this actually like was reflected back to me, what happens when I actually choose chaos, dysfunction, whether it be dietary patterns, relationship patterns, just making those unhealthy choices for myself that were the chains to my, like, keeping me from my peace. They were my own choices. That in those moments of painful reflection, I had to literally be like, okay, I screwed up again, screwed up in quotation points, because if it's teaching me something, then it's not really a mistake, right? And then it's that self-love piece to be like, you catch yourself in those moments of saying, okay, we don't want to keep repeating that. And you have permission to actually choose different. And now I'm actually supporting myself to do so, because I have the reference point of how ill I get or how dysfunctional my body gets when I choose Doritos over apples, for example, right? So it's like, it is like that tension of the chaos, the tension of the compulsive behavior that is dysfunctional and unhealthy. It's all of those pieces. I feel like I want to just offer this to everyone that might be feeling like this to themselves right now, is like they're struggling with that dynamic of imprisonment to self in certain ways, imprisonment to the flesh, imprisonment to the different aspects of your mental space that feels like that's not a sovereign peace signature that we're looking for, is like, love yourself in those moments of feeling like you're failing yourself. Love yourself, love yourself, love yourself.
Yeah,
And
and the soul is neutral. We talked about this earlier. The soul is neutral. So to the soul, there's never a wrong choice, a bad choice, a better. I mean, the soul is just here for experience, for evolution, and it doesn't care. It'll choose anything to evolve and grow. So yeah, we are pretty much our worst enemy most of the time, right? Our self-talk, and there's no wrong, there's no right. We didn't mess up, and oftentimes, like, those challenges and hardships are necessary for the growth and the learning of a lesson and a pivotal opportunity to make a different choice. So it takes a lot. That's why, like, the healing work you hear so much these days and these past years about everyone like doing all this healing work and shadow work and healing work and shadow work, because they're not meant to go with us in the new, right? The new is about being more in that alignment, with divinity and with your sovereignty, and but it's also about accepting all parts of ourselves, loving all parts of ourselves. And that's how we in turn accept and love others. You
exactly.
know, that we have all of these parts of us within, and all of these like polarities and dualistic parts within ourselves. I mean, we live by definition, even like the way the earth is physically designed, right? With the North Pole and the South Pole. I mean, it's a planet of duality. And I feel like duality isn't erased by stepping in one extreme of it or the other. It's erased or diminished when we can bring it into balance and bring it into like neutrality, right? So bringing those aspects of ourselves into balance is just the acceptance of it. It's not trying to necessarily do away with one extreme part of it or the other extreme part of it. It's allowing for the all of it, and
That's well said.
loving yourself through it. Does that make sense?
That's the key. Yeah, that is the shift for yourself, and that's the shift for humanity. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing right now too, is we're trying to bring humanity kind of, back into balance. And even on like the more basic fundamental, it has to do with, balance. Like, we have there's a lot of attention right now and a lot of narrative around like, bringing the divine feminine back into balance and the rise of the divine feminine. But let's not forget that the divine feminine would not be out of balance if the divine masculine was also not extremely out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
You
Oh,
know,
right. Right.
so
Of
we're
course.
trying to balance those energies on the planet, but by balancing them within each of us
That's
individually.
exactly
And we're
right.
and we're talking about feminine and masculine as energies, not as
Right.
genders, right? But as energies, like the masculine being more like logic and reason and assertiveness and power and strength, and then the feminine being more compassion and intuitive and nurturing and those kinds of things. And all of those, I mean, can get extremely out of balance. Obviously they are, so um there's a lot obviously to reclaiming the truth of who we are as a divine and sovereign being, the soul of the great awakening. It's a simple concept, but there's lots of layers to it, and there's lots of threads to it. And it's sort of just practicing every day and try, especially now. You're not going to find what you're looking for. You're not going to find any answers that you're looking for. And you're not even going to find any truth of anything like listening to the outside world.
Mm-hmm.
I really encourage all of us. It's not about turning a blind eye and be like, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I'm going to pretend none of this is happening. No, we are aware. It's about being aware and tuned in to what's happening, but not getting like sucked into it, not getting attached to it.
Right.
And as much as we can, turning off those outside voices, which, I mean, it's not just the public, I mean, it's our families, it's where we work, it's
Mm-hmm.
in the groups that we're part of, it's in our friendships, in our community, and outside voices like everywhere. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's so hard to hear your own truth. And something that I heard you say, or kind of refer to a little bit like in what you have said today, or at least it's something that I heard you saying without saying it. It actually requires you to sort of separate and isolate yourself a little bit from the world, maybe take a
Mm-hmm.
step out, to become more clear, to become more grounded in your truth, in your own like health of your own soul,
Mm-hmm.
finding your own peace, hearing your own voice. Sometimes that does require like separating a little bit. I've been a little more isolated from being actively participating in the world, like from some life events, that have happened for myself and in my family. But then I also see how it's been like a necessary part of me really, like, one, doing some of my own deep healing that has not been pretty,
Mm-hmm.
has not been pretty.
Right.
Um, and finally feeling like I'm coming into a more confident, grounded place of what my truth really is. And I feel like you've probably done that from some of your own life events too, have kind of, had to step away a little bit from active participating in the world, maybe the way that you used to, right?
Right.
To get a little
Right.
more clear with that self-love, that inner peace, being able to be really honest about patterns in our lives, what's working, what's not working, where do I need to, make changes, make different choices, try to believe differently. We're undoing, like, not, I mean, like, our souls and all of us on the planet right now, like we're complex beings of layers and layers and layers of energetic patterns, like from our soul experiences, from our family lineage, from the collective programming. I mean, it's the most massive shift humanity has ever been in, like what we're doing right now. There's never been anything like it ever in the history of humanity. It is the most massive shift ever. So it's not easy work by any means.
Mm-hmm.
But on some hand, I feel like we can overcomplicate it, right? You know, just like listen from within, trust your intuition, and then act on your intuition, and don't get attached to thinking why you're making the decision or have an expectation, attached to it. I was having that conversation with you earlier today about something that I'm like, like I don't even want to like overanalyze it or psychoanalyze it. I just know like what feels right for me, and just honor making those choices. It could be, it could be something like, I really feel like, within my heart, within in myself, that I'm not supposed to, maybe take that job, you know, and instead of like getting attached to the expectation as to why, just honor it. Just let your mind kind of stop there. I don't know why, but I'm not supposed to take that job.
And giving yourself the permission slip to do so. Your own personal permission is a huge piece.
Yeah.
You're the only one that can give yourself permission to feel a certain way like about yourself or anything. Somebody can say something to you to try to make you feel a certain way, or somebody can offer you a program to buy into or an experience to experience. The only thing that is going to give you that experience is if you allow it.
That reminds me of petty tyrants.
Yeah.
Like constantly kind of showing up to like, are you ready to, pass this lesson? Like we'll always, I think, kind of be challenged for our own evolution and be able to take back our own power.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of, like I said, kind of threads that we can follow, just on this kind of this simple premise of listening from the inside out, living your truth, reclaiming your sovereignty. We didn't, talk a whole lot about unity consciousness tonight. Maybe we can pick up this conversation again. I want to, I'm going to plant one seed, and it's something that I've come into like kind of on my own knowing. I kind of started having these thoughts like a few years back, but inclusion is not the same as unity consciousness. Acts of inclusion actually create more division.
We'll have to definitely have a talk about that then.
We're highlighting certain aspects about people and kind of grouping them all together, and we think, it's been a kind of a program that, oh, this is a good thing. It's a good thing to create this agenda or to create this group, because we want everyone to feel included. We want this group to feel included, or this group, or whatever it is. But
so you're like woke ideology type of stuff.
Not even just woke, just anything that puts us into groups and keeps us from seeing each other as a whole, and as a soul,
right,
and as a vessel of God, like the whole of someone. But acts of inclusion in some form create more division amongst humanity as a whole. We all want everyone to feel included and loved, and to see each other as soul, and to see their divine essence. So when we are creating these groups, and it's not just the woke ideology, because this has been going on for thousands of years, right? You know, in different ways. But it's a really subtle way of how, again, they, whoever they are, keeps us divided.
Mm-hmm.
And we can maybe dive into that like in another conversation because it's,
Yeah, we're going on an hour.
yeah, there's lots to talk about. But I think these conversations are important
Yeah,
to just reiterating that simple concept of turn it all off and listen from within.
right.
Turn it all off and listen from within.
Thank
Turn it
you.
all off and listen from within.
Yeah.
And then we can take these conversations in a lot of, you know, different directions and talk about there's a lot of different aspects to who we are as soul and as a divine sovereign being. I know that I've gotten away from over the last handful of years. I don't even talk about spirituality so much anymore because I feel like spirituality has been hijacked also, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and but when we talk about soul and divinity, that applies to absolutely every being on the entire planet. Okay, not just the spiritual community, not just the religious community, not everyone on the soul. I mean, everyone on the planet has a soul and is a divine expression of the one, of God, of source.
Mm-hmm.
So my content is really here for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I love it. You're doing so good too presenting.
I
Thank you
appreciate you.
for doing
Hey,
so.
if you want to take, and you don't have to, you can say no. If you want to take like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and you don't have to, because Rachel has one of the most authentic kind of psychic eyes and
Mama
hearts
Bear.
of anyone I know. Is there anything that you've been cluing into regarding like now in this moment of time, what the message is or what is the opportunity or what is happening with the collective?
Mm. Yeah, like right when you said that, the first thing I'm seeing is a sort of truth. I'm just seeing like the sort of truth like slicing through a visual dynamic right now. So there is, yeah, it has to do with that whole like aspect of truth being cutting. So just think about that because that's the symbology I'm seeing when you ask that question. The psychic answer that's being given to me. I mean, I don't really know that there's anybody out there wielding a sword right now, literally, but
No,
it's
I
like,
don't think so.
so yeah, so this is like a symbolic imagery of like the sort of truth being like truth being cutting. It can be sharp, it can be painful sometimes, and it's destructive.
Yeah.
So, so when you ask me that question, this is what's being given to me as the response is like, I'm hearing wake up calls,
Yeah.
like rude wake up calls, rude awakenings.
I totally
So,
align with that. I
mhm.
think that is what is happening right now. You know, we've been asking, even subconsciously, you know, in the hearts of humanity for like something new. Well, there's not a new without complete destruction of the old. And it is going to be painful and it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be confusing. But I do love that imagery of like the sword of truth. And I think that we can connect with that sword of truth within ourselves and then honor that, you know, the more divine energy at play is that sword of truth on a collective level. So.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think that might be something we just continue to see playing out across the board personally and
Yeah, it's going to be a
politically.
while. It's gonna, yeah. Okay,
Thank
well, we'll sign
you.
off for this evening. I'll be back again with the Soul of the Great
Yes,
Awakening,
I'll
and I
share
hope
your
you
broadcast.
that Rachel will join me again in the future.
I would love to. Thank you for having me. This has been great and
Okay,
such a
everyone, do your best to tune it off and tune it in and reclaim who you are as a divine and sovereign being.
thank you, Kristen. Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone.
Everyone take care. See y'all soon.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.